Hello world, this is Zan, finally getting around to playing Age of Wonders 4. I've already got a few races picked out, I've already played some of this, just to kind of cut my teeth before I put it on the big screen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start a new game. I've done some of the story realms just to kind of learn, but I want to try out one of these create realms because the default ones that they give you seem to have their own kind of story-esque deal to them that I don't really want to deal with, and I want to see how good their custom creator is on default. The one trait I do want to change is I want it to be a big Pangean kind of landmass, just because the naval aspects of the game weren't too intriguing to me early on. Normally you'd be able to go and change their climate, their inhabitants, who else is in the realm in terms of like an NPC ruler, miscellaneous traits. Nothing. Well, I was about to say nothing too crazy, but no, actually, these are all extremely crazy. But for now, for my first game on a random realm, I'm not really going to do these. I have everything set here. The only thing I want to change is simultaneous turns. I haven't really done that. Now, if I go to advanced settings, this is where I can go change or choose my factions. And we'll go ahead and create a faction here that I've been wanting to play because, I don't know, I'm coming from Dominions 5 and I wanted to have a Dominions 5 nation. So we're going to go ahead and create the Abysians. For those who don't play Dominions 5, the Abysians are a race of lava-born barbarian warrior kind of deals. They're these almost magical creatures that rush out and fight and pillage. They discover iron working very early, and they use that to turn into this very warlike race. As the Dominion's history continues, they tend to turn toward demons and hellish powers to increase their own power and end up with an overpopulation of human Abyssian hybrids and devil worship all over the place. So I almost want to do human, but I should do human. Maybe that's what I should do. I should do humans as a base race for them. And I can change this later because this is just going to be the physical form. Because they do have that Abyssian heritage, I wish I could choose sort of a heat-centric thing, but I know I can do that later. As the game progresses, I can make it happen. So this is almost going to be Dominions in reverse, where I'm starting as the human hybrids and slowly becoming more of the actual Abyssian. So one of the traits that they have for their bodies, they tend to be strong. I've already got that selected. They are stronger than normal humans. Abyssians tended to be strong creatures. And then their mind trait, although I guess if I'm doing this again in reverse, the older, more original Abyssians started underground. They were sprung from a volcano. But I'm personally not a big fan of this trait. I don't feel it's very strong compared to how strong some of these other traits are. So I know that the human ones relied on their overwhelming tactics by just having more, but I don't quite want that either, since I do want to transition later to the more stereotypical style of them. So they're not defensive, they're definitely not cold-blooded. I wouldn't say they have an arcane focus, although they do have powerful mages, so I think ferocious or tenacious are good ones to have. And I think ferocious will scale better with some later choices I want to make.
What is their origin culture?
So our origin culture, because they're a warlike, almost barbarian-esque tribe, I do want to do barbarian as the choice. The one thing I don't like is that it does have a nature affinity, and the Abyssians are very, very much, pure fire, no nature. But that's okay, because the nature magic in this game actually is pretty useful, and I might dip into it anyways, so it's good to have a tiny bit of it.
What defines their society?
So what defines their society? I do want to take prolific swarmers, because I think early on, this one is very useful. And just to backtrack a little bit, the society trait and the culture are what are really going to determine how your nation plays. It's Both of those combined are almost the equivalent to choosing a pre-made faction in almost any other strategy game. Between those two, you get what kind of buildings, special spells, and units you use. And society is kind of like what traits that the nation's going to have, slash what tech trees you will more quickly go down. So again, I want to take prolific swarmers because they are not cannibals, and I'm personally not impressed with this ruthless raiders aspect, but I did want something of a chaos affinity for the nation. They're definitely nothing to do with order. I don't think that they would fit into any of these. Ancient Wise Ones maybe, as they are an ancient race, but they are a very short-lived race. Like fire, they burn out quickly, so they wouldn't be around for a while. I definitely do not think they're adept settlers or seafarers, and all of this is a nature affinity, which I want to try to avoid as best I can. Now, Materium affinity is because they are from a volcano, they do have a sort of connection to Earth and earthy things, but I don't particularly see them as great builders or runesmiths, because although they quickly discovered iron in the lore, they didn't really do much else. They kind of stagnated. They definitely didn't build wonders. They burned everything down, so I wouldn't say that. Now, they did have powerful evokers. They have powerful pyromancers. And I would say that they'd be scions of evil, because although the nation starts out not inherently evil, their willingness to side with demonic powers for more of their own power would probably sign up with how it says here, a thirst for knowledge and power in pursuit of evil. So I would say that that's something that they would take.
Choose your first turn.
Now, the Tome of Pyromancy. Hell yeah.
What is your
And they were an almost magocracy, theocracy kind of deal, which works out for me because if I want the ruler to be more of an original Abyssian, I want to make them an orc. Which you can barely tell because it's got this cover on. So let me, just for starters, remove that thing. No cape. And whatever the base default armor is. Now, the primary trait of Abyssians is their flaming hot skin, almost molten-like. So I do want to do something about that. Let's make them tall and proud if they're going to be some of the firstborn Abyssians. But they need to be red. Red is good. Good. For the pose, that seems a bit too majestic, but let's see if I can change out their weapon first. So the Lightning Orb is just the spell casting option for your ruler to start with. They have the Spirit Staff as well, but that's more of a healer's gig. Abyssians are not big on healing. So let's fix this pose up to something more menacing, less menacing. I think that's a good middle ground. We'll take that. So for the face, something not skeletal. That's a pretty good one. I'm not too big on eye color. The will be so far away, this will never really play. Do something like that. That looks right spooky. The hairstyle is fine, dripping hair, but we need it all to be red. There we go. Now, going back to the armor, they did have a sort of fire-resistant robe, but they didn't have normal armors. Their skin tended to be so hot that they could only use plate armor, which was probably one of the reasons they were the first inventors of it. So let's see, in terms of the outfits, this is a chest piece with a robe. Don't know what that is. It looks fine. That looks rightfully barbaric. Too regal. That looks spoopy with a little dress at the bottom. Kind of between these two. Can I change the armor color? I don't like the blue. Oh, but that blue might be coming from here. Yeah. Okay, well, while we're here, let's do the emblem real quick. Somewhere in here is fire. There. Okay, and that part is solved. He does look rather colorless. Maybe is there a way I can switch this? I mean, I guess I'd rather this be a bright red, but this... it's like a terrible burgundy. So I guess we'll settle with this as the color. I'm still not sure about this outfit. Maybe I choose this one? Or even this one? I guess we can just choose this one for starters, you know? The armor color, I guess this just changes the belt. We don't need that to be black, or red, that can be black. Pretty simple. But now, importantly, let's change the race from looking like some random humans and make them on the bulkier side with, I guess, longer arms, longer legs. Come on. There we go. And they need to have red skin somewhere. There you go. So for their armor, I think they did have a blackened iron kind of deal. Oh, this is their hair color. Boom. Now the only question is how much I really want to go with humans to start with. But I guess this is their end result, right? It's these humans playing to be like the actual race. And in the late age of Dominions 5, this is actually kind of what happens, where they're led by some of the more original Abyssians, but most of the race tended to be human at that point. So, you know what? I can justify this for myself. We've got them, they're red. They're not fire resistant, we can add that later. And we've got our big boy, who's one of more... So I guess you could say the originals look like this orc, and the guys in the background look like the human bred. So I do know one of the names of the heroes, which was Ball, or Ball. I gotta figure out how to pronounce that if I'm gonna play with them. Cosrin. Humanoid Bloodletters, let's do the Abysians. And Chaos Prince does seem like a pretty decent title for them. I don't actually know the name of their rulers. They seem to be more of a council of sorts, and I guess there could be multiple Chaos Princes. So, you know what? I think I'm pretty cool with this. So yeah, let's settle with that. I'm going to leave the AI difficulty at normal, and I'm going to have the ability for some of the rulers I've used to show up. And I think I'm pretty happy with these choices. So with that confirmation, I will end the video here, and ideally either stream later tonight or release this as its own separate series.